On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks are still interested in Goran Dragic. Should the Mavs be going after him? Then, the Mavs want to get another defensive wing. How can they do that? Which free agents should we target? I have the perfect one. I'll tell you on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavs Coaching.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. He hits! Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
Thank you, Mavs fans.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Let us know. What do you think about the options for wings, defensive wings in free agency? Let us know which one you like the best. Who do you think they should go after? Talk about that later in the show. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer and contributor at Mavs.com, the free agent friend, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
All right, so yesterday was Father's Day. And so my wife, we start to do Father's Day gifts. And my wife's like, hey, we made a video for you.
Meaning your kids, your 2-year-old and your 4-year-old, right?
Yeah. So she's like, we made a video for you. So she plays it on our TV. It's adorable. She's asking our toddlers questions about me, and she asked my son, "Hey, what's your favorite thing that Papai cooks?"
Ooh.
Now, I love to cook. Okay, I've talked about smoking.
I've had your cooking before. It's good.
I love to cook. I love to grill. All this stuff. And of all these things that I've cooked for my son,
mac and cheese, potatoes, like brisket, like all kinds of good stuff.
All these things.
Yeah.
And he responds, ice cream. That's his favorite thing that I make for him is freaking ice cream. Freaking scooping out a Bluebell, like scoops out of the tub.
Well, you got to make sure it hasn't been licked before. Like, you got to do all kinds of other stuff.
He doesn't give a crap about that. Anyway, I've just been thinking about that moment of like, I've cooked for you for nothing for this whole time. So, anyway, that's just what I'm thinking about right now.
That's amazing. There you go. Isaac Harris makes the best ice cream, according to his son. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right. On today's show, bunch of about the Dallas Mavericks with Goran Dragic, the coaching, all kinds of different things changing. And then we'll get to some free agents. The Mavs want to add another defensive wing. According to Tim McMahon, they want to add another 3&D type wing or just a defensive wing. And they want to use the taxpayer mid-level. I got a bunch of options and the perfect one for the Mavs. And we'll also go through a couple options with the traded player exception that the Mavericks have. That one, it's a little bit harder to use, but the Mavericks could still use that. We'll go over some options of that as well. But let's start with this. Can't get enough of that button. According to Mark Stein, as league-wide focus rapidly shifts to next week's draft and the June 30th start of free agency, sources say Dallas, while prioritizing its need for more wing help, does indeed intend to explore the possibility of signing Goran Dragic this summer. Isaac Harris, are you ready to do this again? Are you ready to get back on the saddle and just go through this whole Goran Dragic saga again for the Mavericks?
I mean, this is, what, 2 years? I mean, I don't know how long.
How many years in a row is this?
I don't know if my son, was he born yet when we first started talking about Dragic to Dallas?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, I feel like I've had the same stance on it for the past 2 years.
So it hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't changed for me. And especially now, like, I mean, you make this trade, which was a great trade. We talked about it. If you haven't, so many of you guys listened and downloaded the Christian Wood trade reaction pod. Thank you for that. Shared it and all of that. Nick talked to Jackson Gatlin of Locked On Rockets on Friday. So go listen to those two pods.
I talked to Jackson Gatlin again for Locked On NBA on Monday about it. We've done the Christian Wood trade up and down.
So anyway, you create all these roster spots. Like it was such a low risk swing for Dallas. Like the more I look at that deal, the more I love it. Yeah. But in the sense of, hey, you swing, and if it doesn't work, like you didn't like really sacrifice hardly anything at all. But you create all these roster spots, and it's like, all right, well, how are you going to fill the roster spots now? Like, yeah, Theo Pinson's going to take one of them, but we're not even ruling out another like 2-for-1 trade too. Like they could always do that. But they have these roster spots, so why not go out and add a vet? Why not add another? I mean, you might as well just add another Luka friend, because you lose one, add another. But it's like, he's 36. Let's temper the expectations too. Like, you're not adding Goran Dragic to come in and, you know, give you 28 minutes a night, but you're also adding a guy who just played over 20. I mean, they got swept. Brooklyn got swept in the playoffs, but he played over 20 minutes in 3 of those games. Like, he had 18 points in one of those games in a playoff game against Boston. So, like, he still got stuff in the tank. I think he would still, I think he would play great off the bench. Like, put him and Dinwiddie together, or some type of combinations of him and Dinwiddie, him and Tim, whatever it is. So, if he's willing to come here, I think the only question is, how much money is he willing to take? Like, if it's a vet min, home run.
Yeah.
Now, if it comes into, like, is he your, you know, taxpayer mid-level? Then, I mean, yeah, then it's a different conversation. I still think he would be worth it if you can't get another wing with it.
That's the thing. It's tempered the expectations, like you said. Last year he was making, you know, what? He made, or the year before he made $18 million, and then last year he only made like the vet minimum. So maybe that is what he's expecting at this point. And if he comes in, if it's for the vet minimum, so it doesn't even like affect the mid-level, the Mavs still would have that option. Then all of a sudden you're adding him, and the Mavs needed another guy like this. Right? Let's not forget that the Mavericks, throughout that whole playoffs, we kept waiting for, they just need one more ball handler. Like, they still just need one more guy, like, because Spencer Dinwiddie wasn't really getting it done. Like, could they just have one more option? Can they just have one more guy to try and, like, handle the ball and like, run the offense when they need him to? And they still needed one more guy like that. And so if they can add Dragic at the mid-level, at the, like, the veteran, like, the veteran, what is
Well, the vet min?
Vet minimum. I just combined all my cap terms all at once in my head. If they got him for the vet minimum, then that's a home run, like you said. Like, to get a guy that will help Luka. I've seen a lot of people say the thing, well, if he can only just tell Luka to shut up when he's yelling at refs, like, it'll just be worth it. I don't know about that. I'm not going to say that I understand their relationship that much to where it would help Luka, but it can't be bad. And so I'm all for it. I'm all for
if you can add
Dragic.
Christian Wood, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Goran Dragic to this team for basically free, to the same roster who took you to a Western Conference Finals, you can add those 3 guys to that rotation. I mean, that's already a win. We're not even talking about who they could add with the taxpayer and all that. So
for sure.
Anyway.
Couple other rumors. According to Jake Fisher, some people certainly think the Knicks still have a shot, but I mean everyone that I've talked to is working under the assumption that Jalen Brunson will go back to Dallas. Isaac Harris, what's your confidence meter as of right now, June 19th, on Jalen Brunson re-signing with the Mavs?
Yeah, 99%.
Yeah, I listened to his whole podcast with Duncan Robinson. It's a good listen. He had a lot of good things to say about the Mavericks, and it just sounds like he's on board with this whole franchise, and he just wants to, you know, run everything back that they just did. It just sounded like it was just one of the best situations for him. He was glad the Mavericks believed in him and all that, and so I'm at 99% as well. It would have to be some kind of crazy swing, some kind of crazy transaction of events in order for him to not come back, I think.
Yeah, you got to pay him, and as long as he wants to come back, it's done.
The last thing, that the Mavericks are adding Quentin Crawford. He's leaving the Lakers as an assistant coach to join Dallas coach Jason Kidd's staff, according to Brad Turner from LA. And he said Crawford is viewed as an up-and-coming bright coach in the NBA. He was an assistant under Frank Vogel for the past 3 seasons, so he was also on staff with when Jason Kidd was there. And so he's going to come and join the Mavericks. And it's expected, according to Mark Stein, that Greg St. Jean is going to move from the back row to the front row and fill in Igor Kokoshkov's spot when Igor Kokoshkov left to the Brooklyn Nets. Isaac, what do you think about this coaching carousel? Losing Kokoshkov, bringing Greg St. Jean to the front row, and then Quentin Crawford now joining from the Lakers.
People love St. Jean, so I wasn't shocked by that. I mean, obviously when it's just moving chairs, he's moving up. We're basically creating, the Lakers bench again. Okay, so Kidd, Dudley, St. Jean. The cool thing about it is, you're adding another coach who has, a ring. So another, he has title experience and all of that. So yeah, I don't know much about him, so I can't speak too much about him, but cool.
Yep, good stuff. Jason Kidd liked him in LA. We worked with him for those 2 years, so apparently that was something that he liked, and so that's a positive. Greg St. Jean moving up, and the one downside to this is they're not adding a Kenny Atkinson or Mike D'Antoni or a guy like that has a ton of experience in that. But I don't know if this coaching staff needs that at this point. I think this coaching staff did an incredible job last year.
Yeah, I mean they They've kept Sweeney for now.
Stop. No, Charlotte.
but I mean, Sweeney is his main guy there. So yeah, just fill out the rest of the bench and go from there.
All right, coming up, let's get into some of these free agent wings. The Mavs want to add a 3&D defensive type wing, according to Tim McMahon, and we've got some options for you. We'll talk about all those coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetOnline. It's the best place to check out the odds and lines inside and outside of sports. There's all kinds of great stuff that you can check out. There's everything. I saw somebody comment, like, why would anybody want to bet on the WNBA? Hey, you don't have to. You can bet on all kinds of other stuff. But if you want to, they have WNBA odds. They have overseas basketball odds. They have odds on the draft. Odds to win the championship next year. Golden State Warriors plus 450. Celtics plus 650. Who do you think is the number 3 team?
No, I don't understand why the Nets are number 3. I had an issue with this.
They're not anymore.
Okay, well, I saw this the other day, and I'm like, I don't understand this at all.
Clippers number 2 plus 750. It's a good one. Bucks plus 750. They're tied for number 3, I guess. Brooklyn Nets at number 5 with 800. Phoenix Suns plus 950, and then the Mavericks plus 1,200. The Suns have better odds than the Mavericks right now, according to BetOnline, to win the title. So you put down $100 on the Mavs, and they win the title in 2023, like some commenters say, you can win $1,200. Go check that out on BetOnline. See all the other odds and lines and spreads and everything available. They have baseball. They have all kinds of other things. Check it out. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. The ultimate NBA mock draft is underway right now. Go check it out. We dropped an episode in our podcast feed this past weekend. That was episode 1. Episode 2 is live right now. Episode 3 should be live if I've finished editing it. So go check it out. It's an incredible program. We're making picks on there. You have all the other Locked On NBA hosts making picks on there. Our college hosts do their analysis. Our Odyssey experts like Ryan McDonough and Brian Scalabrine make their analysis. There's all kinds of great stuff. And Rafael Barlow and Richard are hosting it with Kanani Stevens. Go check it out. It's the ultimate NBA mock draft. All right, Isaac Harris. So, Tim McMahon said that the Mavericks are going to be looking into some 3&D wings now with a taxpayer mid-level exception. So normally you get a mid-level exception, which is like on top of the cap. You don't have to have cap room to use it. And the Mavericks were a tax-paying team last year. So now they have this taxpayer mid-level, which is a little bit lower than what the normal mid-level exception is. This one is going to be about $6 million. So the Mavericks have this $6 million spot that they can use on a player. I think you can use it on multiple players as well. But if they want to use it on one player, let's throw out some of these wings that we've seen for, around that could be available that are free agents right now. I got a couple options for you. You ready for this? These are the mid-level exceptions. These guys are straight up free agents.
Are you throwing out a bunch of names, or are you throwing out like one at a time?
Let's do one at a time.
All right, sweet.
Let's start with these guys that I think could be too expensive. You tell me if I'm wrong about this, okay? Because these are the ultimate guys. I think if any of these guys are available, you go get these guys. But I think they may be too expensive. Tell me if I'm wrong. The best one is Otto Porter Jr. He played on the veteran minimum last year. $6 million is a step up for him, but he would be the best option of any of these guys that I've looked at that is going to be an unrestricted free agent. The Warriors print money over there, but maybe they don't want to pay so much for Otto Porter. $6 million doesn't seem like that much, but that means a lot more for them. You think he'd be too expensive for the Mavs at $6 million?
Is that your one? Is that your perfect one?
It's not my perfect one, but
okay.
If he would take $6 million, he would be the perfect one.
Yeah, my only thing is just like defensively, does he still have enough in the tank that he's going to be able to like what is Dallas asking him to do? Like, from offense wise, he's the 3&D guy as far as he shot 38% from 3 last year.
Yeah.
He's 29. If you can get him for that cost, I think let's do it. Got the championship experience and stuff. I just don't know. Will he get the full MLE from somebody? Like, I think
that's my guess.
I think Looney probably gets the full MLE, maybe even a little bit more. I saw somebody report about Sacramento. Mike Brown going to Sacramento and stuff. Could try to go get Looney. But yeah, Porter, that would be a great option.
That would be the best one. I think he's going to be too expensive in the sense that he won't take $6 million. He's going to get more somewhere else or more just to stay with the Warriors. Would be my guess. The other one from the Warriors is Gary Payton II.
This is my guy.
That's your guy.
This is my one thing.
Yep.
He's 29. Sorry, can I go on my little mini Gary Payton?
Yeah.
This is who I want. This is who I think they should go after. The Warriors can only okay, let me rephrase. I was gonna say the Warriors can only afford so much. Like to bring back
These guys paid $80 million for Kelly Oubre Jr.
Well, it's wild that if they bring back Looney, they have the extension for Poole coming up.
Yeah.
How much are they willing to go for Gary Payton II? And so Gary Payton II, his career earnings so far in his career since 2016 to now, $1.9 million. Okay. So that's his career earnings. So if you're Dallas, test Golden State on it. Because all you're asking for somebody in this spot is to be the 8th or 9th person, especially if you bring in a Goran Dragic for the vet men. Because you already have Dinwiddie, you already have Tim Hardaway, you already have Maxey and Dwight, these guys coming off the bench. So you're just looking for a 3&D type of guy that can give you solid minutes. If you're willing to pay it, you're willing to pay the luxury on it, then go out and say, we'll test you. $6 million a year, 2 to 3 year deal on Gary Payton II.
That's a good point to make. Is what are the Mavericks asking of this guy? Because that frames and shapes how we're talking about these guys. All they're asking this guy to do is probably, definitely come off the bench, right? You're starting Luka, Brunson, Bullock, and Dorian, and Christian Wood again, probably. Like you're probably starting that group. You're asking this guy to come off the bench. We have Dinwiddie and Hardaway as the backup guards. They need somebody else that can defend off the bench.
Yes.
And maybe Josh Green steps into that role. Maybe Frank Ntilikina steps in that role. But it'd be awesome to have somebody that's played on a little bit higher level that will be ready for a playoff run, that doesn't need more developing, that could sit and play a wing role, or maybe like Gary Payton II, like a guard role off the bench to defend and to help those two guys, especially during like bench moments.
And if you're Golden State, why do you pay that? Because you have Moses Moody. Like you just you spent a lottery pick on him. Yeah, like you have these picks. You're about to have another first round pick at the end of the first round this year. So it's like at some point they got to do something, either a consolidation trade or whatever. But they have the obvious Moses Moody spot in that. So I feel like he would be gettable for that, and I think he would be a great fit alongside like Dorian and Reggie starting, and then you add him. Like if you want to throw him and Frank together coming off the bench as like, hey, what type of defensive guys you want to bring? That would be my choice to who I would go after day one.
Both of those guys I think would be great. If the Mavs could test the Warriors on either of those, if they're like, hey, we don't know if we want to pay this much, or we will pay that much, but we'd rather have Moody and Kuminga step into the Gary Payton II and Otto Porter Jr. roles. Then all of a sudden the Mavericks are available. Like then all of a sudden they're viable. The problem is a lot of teams are wanting a wing, right? A lot of teams want these type of players, and they're not going to be super cheap. Another one that I've seen thrown around a lot on Twitter is Torian Prince. Is a really interesting one. He made $13 million last year. It's a step down to go to $6 million, but maybe he wants to play 1 year for for a winning team and say, hey, I want to go ahead and try this, and maybe he goes after and maybe he's like, hey, I want a prove it deal with the Mavs.
Yeah, he shot 38% from 3 last year. He's what, 20 he's 29, I think.
He's 28. He's gonna be 28. Yeah, he's 28.
Yeah, so he just turned 28 a few months ago, about 3 months ago. So I mean, he's another one of those guys, he's kind of like Otto Porter. It's like, yeah, if you're willing to come here and the role that we're asking once again off the bench, then yeah, because he's a good 6'7", 6'8", bigger bodied wing. So yeah, let's do it if he's willing to come.
And one of the things that I think was it Zach Lowe, or maybe it was just Tim McMahon mentioned, is the Mavs want somebody that can defend a little bit bigger too. They need somebody else to help Dorian, because Dorian was having to guard so many of these big wings that maybe at some point, if you could play all three of these guys together, Reggie, Dorian, and this other guard, that maybe this person can help defend a little bit bigger guys as well. Torian Prince is one of them. TJ Warren, $12.7 million last year. He's had some injury situation. He's not necessarily like the defensive wing that you would want, but this is another option for the Mavericks at the wing spot that could be had for this $6 million mid-level or taxpayer mid-level exception.
Yeah, I question this one just a little bit fit-wise, because they already have Tim and Dinwiddie, and Warren's a get buckets guy. And I like him.
It's not filling the need.
If for some reason they took Tim and they swapped out Tim for a defensive person or something, and it's like, all right, we need a little bit more offensive punch there in that second unit. Then you get TJ Warren and say, hey, you can do this if he's willing to come. I like him. I'm really intrigued because he set out all last year, but I don't think it fits that well.
Let me go over a couple more guys that I think are going to be too expensive. Like they'll make more than $6 million next year. Bruce Brown for the Nets.
Yeah.
He's probably going to make more, but that would be a good option. Guy that could come off the bench, defend. He plays bigger than his. He definitely punches above his weight for sure at his spot. Thad Young made $14.2 million last year, but that's a guy that is more of like a 4 than a wing, but he's definitely an option. And then your nemesis.
No.
Kyle Anderson. He made $9.9 million last year. I think he would be a great option. He's a little bit of a playmaker. He can defend well. He's got good length. He's strong. Like, he could stand in there and be that guy. He's definitely could be played in a playoff rotation. But will he take the discount from $10 million last year to $6 million 1 year this year? Or is that all he gets? Like, I don't know. This is kind of one that I was kind of waffling on. Is he too expensive or is he just perfect?
I think he's too expensive, but theoretically, he would fit.
I don't know. His dad really helped him try to sell this, so maybe he sells himself the right way, and he can actually, make more than $6 million. But so those are some options. So those are the ones I think could be too expensive. But coming up, let me tell you the ones that are actually in the Mavericks realm right here, that are in their price range, and I got the perfect one for the Mavs coming up. All right, Isaac Harris, we've been talking about free agent options for the Mavericks. They want a defensive wing. They need somebody. They have Dinwiddie. They have Hardaway. Both guys that are offense first, that are not great on defense at different levels. And then also, like, their bench right now is like Dwight, Davis Bertans, Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway, Maxey, obviously. But like, all 4 of those first guys are all offense first and don't have any defense. They need somebody else to defend. We went over some guys that we think could be too expensive. Here are some guys that I think are perfect. And here's my guy. Ready?
No.
Gary Harris.
Solid.
Gary Harris, I think, is the perfect guy because I think he's gonna be just overlooked that he'll be available and make $6 million. He made $19 million last year. He's coming off of that big deal that he signed with the Nuggets when he was back playing with Jamal Murray. And there's a point where people didn't know if Jamal Murray or Gary Harris would be the better player. Like, that was a real thing people were talking about. We had like a whole board bet where I think it was Gary Harris versus Rodney Hood. We had who would have better stats one year. So he was a guy that was on the rise, and then that year that you made that board bet, he had his like career year. Like, that was the year that he had his best stats. Hasn't played the same since, neither has Rodney Hood. But I think Gary Harris is the perfect option because I think he will be just overlooked. He's been playing in Orlando. And so what did he look like in Orlando? Well, I reached out to Philip Rossman-Reich from Locked On Magic. He had great things to say. He said, I thought he was good. I don't think he was back to his 2018 levels, which was Gary Harris at his best, but it's definitely the closest that he's been. The team was always better on both ends when Gary Harris was out there. I don't think you put him on teams best guy anymore defensively, but he was key to pockets of success that the Magic had last year. That was from Locked On Magic host Philip Rossman-Reich. So their Mavs aren't asking him to be the guy that defends the best guy on the court, right? They're not asking him to be a starter and to go out there and defend the Tatums and the Steph Currys, but in spurts, go out there and guard that guy, or go out there and guard the second best guy, or even the third best guy sometimes, or go to guard the best guy off the bench, right? And so I think, and Gary Harris has shot the ball well from 3 his career. I think he was like at 38% since. So his first year he didn't shoot too well, but over
he shot 38 last year though, at 5 a game.
Shot 38% last year. Over the course of his career, take out his first year, he shot 37% from 3, and so that's the perfect guy. Gives you a little bit of playmaking too, just a little bit defensively. He's played on some good teams before. He should be available. $6 million is maybe cheap for him, but maybe for the career that he's had and the downturn that he's had, perfect for the Mavs.
I like him a lot. I just don't think he comes at $6 million. That I could be the Debbie Downer on this, but really? I think he's going to be one of the most coveted, because he's not going to be. Everybody knows he's not an $18 million player or like 15, but I think teams are going to be coming at him with the full MLE with all the reasons that you just said. Like, he's still 27.
Damn, should I have made my case worse? Should I go back and should I rewind that?
So he sucked, but no, it's like he shot 38%. He's just 27. I think a team's going to be coming at him with not 15 a year, but I wouldn't be shocked if he gets a 2 for 20 type of deal, or a 3 for 28 or something like that. And it's like, so it would have to be the convincing factor of, all right, you're going to be our third wing off the bench, and you're going to come off the bench with Tim. You're going to give us how many ever minutes a night type thing. I love his fit though. I think he would be a perfect fit in Dallas.
I also waffled on him, putting him on the too expensive list, and I probably should have at this point, but I think he's going to be a little overlooked. I think playing in Orlando is like an obscurity. I don't know how many people are sitting out there scouting Orlando games, but yeah, that's the hope for me, is that they get Gary Harris. Here are a couple other options I think that the Mavs could go after. What about bringing back an old friend? Wes Matthews started for the Bucks in some moments. I think they'll probably keep him and try to keep him, but what if the Mavs throw $6 million at him?
Ooh, that's because he's made basically the vet min for the past few years.
Yeah, he's
right?
been on the Bucks. Yep.
Is he worth the full?
Probably not.
Taxpayer. But like, it's those type of guys now that theoretically you've made the conference finals. You're going to be a perennial, like, really good team. Can you start getting these type of vet men guys? Like, if you walk into the offseason, you get Goran Dragic and Wes Matthews to come on for the vet men. Like, those are winning type of moves. Would I throw the full 6 at him? I guess it would just depend on the other options.
You can also throw part of it at him. You wouldn't have to throw the whole thing at him, probably.
Yeah, what's his age now? What is
He's going to be 36 at the start of the season. So
okay, it's basically the same age as Dragic.
Yep.
Interesting. I love the fire he brings, though.
For sure. Another option, Derek Jones Jr., another future former Maverick. Old
I
friend.
wrote his name down. Yeah. Yeah, I like him. We don't know if this front office likes him. We know the last front office liked him. We don't know if this front office does. But I would. The only thing I'm questioning about him is his defense, and I would need to really look into synergy stuff.
That's the only thing you're asking. You're not. He shot 30% from three his career.
I'm
questioning that as well.
To know. Not the perfect. There's other options I like more than Derek Jones, though.
Markieff Morris. I don't know if that's an old friend, but maybe bring him back.
Is he still hurt?
Whiplash.
I don't know if he's still.
All right, here's another one that might be perfect too.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, we saw this guy get a very clear role with the Jazz, and all of a sudden, you were like, "Wait, how did this guy jump out?" It's Danuel House.
Yeah, I wrote his name down too. He would be a sneaky pickup.
Yeah, that would be a good one. I think,
especially for the role, like what the role you're asking to come,
Yep.
And be is come off the bench and be that wing 3&D guy. And I could see that.
I have Danuel House as my number 2, like the guy that I think that after Gary Harris, the guy that'll be available, but then most gettable, but also best option.
Yeah.
I only had one more free agent. Was Jeremy Lamb. It's like a name that always gets thrown around, but I don't know if he brings. I don't know if he's
I wonder
even
how healthy he is.
Yeah.
I got a sneaky one for you that
that
I think a lot of people are overlooking. So on July 10th, Eric Bledsoe's guaranteed date is coming up for Portland. So if he is on their roster past July 10th, he'll make $19.3 million. So they could waive him, and he's only guaranteed $3.9 million. Now they could put him in a trade in between now and then. They probably will land Jeremy Grant or whoever it is. And then the Pistons will probably waive him. Whatever team waives him.
Whoever waives him, somebody's going.
Before July 10th, he's going to be a free agent basically because he's not worth $19.3 million. Now, will other really good teams, LA teams, go after him? Yes. But if you convince Eric Bledsoe, like, hey, you want to come be on a winning team, like he would be kind of like a Gary Payton type of, Gary Payton II type of role, coming off the bench. Like, can you convince him to say, hey, can you and Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway exist off the bench? What does his defense look like now at this point in his career? I don't know. He's just another name that I would think about. If you look at other people in this range that have guaranteed dates, like, what does Atlanta do? This doesn't fit this at all, but like Danilo Gallinari, like he has a big guaranteed number.
You were right about it not fitting this at all.
It doesn't fit this, but I was just looking at different names that have guaranteed numbers coming. Like Kelly Oubre has a partial guarantee where he's only guaranteed $5 million. I think they'll probably keep him at 12. Hernan Gomez, Juan, like for Utah, he has a non-guaranteed date coming up on June 30th.
Star.
So, he could get let go. He's a guy, friends with Luka and stuff.
What about this
There's two other names that like Josh Hart has a non-guaranteed salary that becomes fully guaranteed on June 25th. It feels like they picked that up.
There's no way.
But he's a guy that I would be really interested in trying to trade for. Or if they put him into some type of bigger deal because they don't have a ton of like double-digit salaries to go on deals if you're Portland. And if they try to ship him somewhere else, I'm definitely calling the third team and trying to hop in as a third team saying, hey, can we get Josh Hart in that? Because he would be a perfect type of role coming off the bench.
He would be the tops of all this list if he was available. And Jalen Brunson tweeted at him today and said, yo, at Josh Hart needs to find Jesus in the worst way. So you could help him find Jesus, Isaac.
Josh, do you know the Lord and Savior?
I
don't have any other name. I was just going down that trail today. I'm like, what other guys have partial guarantees that could be getting waived? Like KCP is in a similar situation. They could save $10 million, but they're gonna pick that up. And so any other name is not really. There's a bunch of names in that category. It's just none of them really. Like, I don't give a crap about Nick Stauskas. So.
Stauskas. I got a couple names for so the Mavericks also have this $10.9 million traded player exception. They got to use it soon, so they'd have to get on it and trade for one of these guys. But here are some options if they want to go that route. Guys that I think would be too expensive and too good to trade. Alex Caruso fits this. There's no chance they trade him. Jared Vanderbilt from the Timberwolves. Grant Williams,
but I would love him.
Grant Williams from the Celtics. Matisse Thybulle from the Sixers.
You'd have to get into some three. I mean, it's just whoever's sending somebody to Philly, you're wanting Thybulle.
You gotta get stuff. And those guys I think are all too good for this. But a couple of guys that might not be. What if Ayton goes and then all of a sudden the Phoenix is in a fire sale? Jay Crowder makes $10.1 million. He fits into this traded player exception.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Larry Nance for the Pelicans. Royce O'Neale from the Jazz, another one. If the Jazz kind of blow it up and Danuel House is available, and
after that branding, they
I don't know if Royce O'Neale would be great on the Mavs. After
Royce, like, just let me not wear that.
Torrey Craig on the Suns too.
Luka Stopper.
And then Mo Harkless on the Kings. He's making 4.6. Jeff Green's going to pick up his player option for 4.5 million.
Shout out to Jeff Green.
So these traded player ones weren't as good as the actual free agent ones, which actually made me feel better about this. I think the Mavs could actually get some of these guys. So whether it's Danuel House, Gary Harris, Torian Prince, Gary Payton, Otto Porter, Kyle Anderson, maybe Eric Bledsoe with the guarantee. Like there's some interesting options there for the Mavericks.
I think they get somebody for sure. That's why when I'm looking at the rotation right now, how I have it like penciled off is the starting five with Christian Wood at the 5. Yeah. And then I have Dinwiddie, Hardaway, Maxey. And at the 9th spot, I just have an underlined blank.
Somebody's got to fill it.
I think somebody's there, whether it's Dragic, whether it's one of these wings, whoever it is. And then if it's one of these wings, then you can put them at the 10th spot. But then I have like a tier down, Dwight, Josh Green, Bertans, Ntilikina. It's crazy when you start thinking about these guys because these guys had to play so much. And this is the depth stuff that I think they can pull off this offseason of saying, oh man, we had a Christian Wood for nothing. Now we could potentially add Dragic for nothing. And then one of these wing taxpayer mid-levels for nothing. And it's like, okay, like now we're building something. The traded player exception is the one I'm watching for the 3-way deals. That's where if Portland makes a big deal on draft night, if that's one of the things I'm watching on draft night is, all right, what teams are making the bigger moves to where you have to hop in and say, hey, we'll give us a second, give us a future pick. We'll take on this player to help you facilitate, this deal. So that's one of the things I'm watching.
The problem is the Celtics have one as well. I was listening to Bill Simmons. They have one from the Evan Fournier deal as well. It's like $17 million. So they could bring in somebody, and they need the exact same things kind of that the Mavs need too.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's some options. The Mavericks should get another player. We should have something to celebrate after free agency. But for right now, the Christian Wood trade is still an incredible deal. We'll be talking about that all the rest of this season. And then we'll talk about what happens at the draft. Maybe they make a trade. Maybe they get back in the draft somehow. We'll talk about all that throughout this week. Thanks for making us your first listen. Now go make your second listen. The Locked On NBA Big Board Show. Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies. You heard him on this show. Has great stuff all the time with the draft, mock draft, player rankings, big boards. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.